We got a big financial update on the NHL front, and the recent news actually has big implications on Montreal's plans, not only come trade deadline, but a big impact on their plans for this offseason. We got to dive into all of the recent news. Plus, Jesse, we got a nice goalie update heading into the game against Detroit, as we got a surprise starter and a little comparison between the two Habs guys in net. And finally, we got a big NCAA update, updates across the board, as Jacob Fowler and Michael Hage have both very much been honored. We're going to get into all that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And Jesse, we'll start in the NCAA, in college hockey, in the US of A, as our boys, well, look, we're already seeing some nominations from each team for the Hobey Baker Award, and I don't know exactly how this works. It seems like most teams, if not all teams, get 3 nominees from the teams. Obviously, this is not the final voting or anything. That'll come later because I think we're just a bit over halfway through the season. But for Boston College, the 3 nominees, Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, and Jacob Fowler, all nominees for the Hobey Baker. But it doesn't stop there, Jesse. University of Michigan, as you can see down the middle, Michael Hage is one of their nominees as well. Their stats have been phenomenal. I'll be showing them throughout this section, but it's so cool to have not only probably like the best player in the KHL right now, definitely the best under 20 player in the KHL, maybe of all time in Demidov, but we also have 2 of the best college hockey players in the entire country. It feels weird, but it's unbelievable.
And we're seeing a little bit of a trend right now. If we look at Fowler's stats, like absolutely unreal, getting 5 shutouts in 19 games. That means he's getting a shutout in over a quarter of the games that he's playing, 26.3%. Like, he is being absolutely dominant at the most important position on the ice. And you have to feel like that's going to factor really heavily into this. Again, kind of going to the trend, like we see Caufield was a winner of the Hobey Baker. Lane Hudson was in the running, one of the finalists last year. We're now seeing Fowler as well, which I kind of expect him to be a finalist as well. And so it's just showing the amazing drafting that we're doing, and also really great trend recognition from our management as well. They know that USA Hockey is trending. The NCAA is where a lot of the best players are found. It's where last year's number 1 was selected, and they're really drafting heavily. Obviously they're looking for the best players, but they're kind of going along with what, hockey is kind of providing us right now. Absolutely amazing hockey from Fowler right now, and we just expect him to continue and just get better and better.
Well, I mean, that's what we're seeing. I mean, early in the season, we're like, wow, this dude has a sub-2 GAA and like a 920-something, 930 save percentage. This is unbelievable. But he's just gotten better. Like, we're like, okay, when's it going to come down to earth? It doesn't. It just keeps getting better. 1.7 GAA, 934 save percentage. I mean, Trey Augustine's having a good season too, but I mean, Fowler's the best goalie in college hockey, and there's a very real chance that he is a legitimate finalist. So there are a lot of really good players in college right now, Jesse, including our other boy, Michael Hage. We'll spend a minute on him. Again, 24 points in 21 games. I would say he's more of an outside shot because there are a few guys who are putting up some insane levels of production in the NCAA this year. But regardless, for a freshman to be doing this, there's not many freshmen doing what he's doing. In fact, none, right? Not even potential number 1, number 2 overall picks coming this season. Michael Hage is having a dominant season. We knew he was going to be great. We knew he'd be motivated once picked by the Habs. But, I mean, this is just icing on the cake, what he's doing. To be one of the nominees from Michigan is, it's astounding to me.
And so well-deserved based on how he's played this year. Again, being completely dominant. And he has gotten more points than Ryan Leonard right now. Mm-hmm. Like, he's got a better points percentage right now. Like, he is playing some really good hockey over, some people that were drafted much higher than him in the past, right? So he's just bringing exactly what we need. And similar to Fowler, like, they're just kind of building on their game. They know what's needed. But obviously Fowler, like, we want that number 1. We want that star goalie in Montreal. But we also need that speed and that skill that Hage, kind of provides. I'm not saying that he's the second coming of Guhle, but we know he's got that speed, right? Mm-hmm. A little bit of a smaller guy, just a little bit, but really playing that brand of hockey that we love here in Montreal.
I'm so thrilled with Michael Hage. All these guys, leave some love down below for our college guys. It's been an incredible year so far, but Jesse also mentioned goaltending, right? And I want to get back to the goaltending front, but in the NHL. And because right now we're obviously seeing this incredible run by Dobes, but also Monty just stole a game in Tampa. Actually, a fun stat, Monty is one of only 4 goalies in the entire NHL to have at least 5 stolen games, which is a stat basically saying I think they saved enough goals above expected to steal a win for their team. He's up there with the likes of, I think it's like Shesterkin and a couple other big name goalies, like the Stahl was there. But right now, going into Detroit's game, Jesse, it's not Jakub Dobes who's getting the start. Despite his .941 save percentage, his win against the New York Rangers, yeah, it was his worst save percentage of any game this season, but he made some clutch OT saves. 1.55 GAA. The Habs are going back to Monty. Now, right now, we are spoiled with the goaltending situation. They've been playing some great hockey. Now, the team, Montreal, has been the #1 team in the NHL since December 17th in terms of goals for per game, which is definitely helping our goalies out a bit. Goal support, something we're not used to. But right now, I mean, Monty rocking that sub-3 GAA, roughly league average save percentage, around 900. Are you surprised at all that it's Monty going back-to-back? I feel like he earned it, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it's hard to say that Dobes also doesn't deserve this next game. It's crazy.
I've been thinking about this, and what kind of my thought on this right now is, it took Samuel Montembeault more than 5 games to take the net from Jake Allen. It was a progression. It took a little bit of time. And if they would have gave Dobes that next start against the Lightning, kind of having, playing 2 games in a row, Martin St. Louis isn't by doing that saying, okay, Jakub Dobes is our #1, but like in Montreal, around the world, people would be taking that as a sign, like, okay, like Jakub Dobes is kind of the #1, right? And that, looking back on it, it might have been a little bit too quick, too soon. I think it's in the best interest for Jakub Dobes to really earn it. Like, they know how well he's playing. For sure, it's been a spectacular 5 games that he's played so far, but I think it's going to be in his best interest where really he's going to have to put over even that bigger body of work, because we know with Samuel Montembeault, like, he was selected to Team Canada for a reason. There is a reason why he could and very well should be the #1 for Team Canada. If we look over the body of work, not just like the last couple games, but like the last 15, 20 games, like, he is playing some very solid hockey for us right now. So for sure that competition is there. For sure it's in the back of Montembeault's mind right now, like how good Dobes is playing, but it's going to take a little bit more. And I think a really solid move of kind of thinking long-term. It's easy, like, where you want to get those points. You're playing against Tampa Bay to kind of, okay, let's just go kind of to Dobes, but they're thinking about that longer term. And I think that'll really reap benefits, not only for Dobes, but also for this team in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable move, of course. Now, you got to ride the hot hand in net, and I think they're doing a good job of balancing the hot hand with also not stepping on toes, right? Like, the message is being sent that, look, Monty's the #1 right now. A lot of Habs fans over the weekend, like even us, we were thinking Dobes would get back-to-back starts. He didn't. That's fine. Monty went out and played a great game. This competition, it breeds competitiveness. It breeds production, right? If you got a hot goalie on your heels, you better go out and have one of your better games, and that's exactly what Monty did. So we'll see him against Detroit on Thursday, but let us know your thoughts of whether you would start Montembeault or Dobes in the game versus Detroit. It is Monty, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. But again, Jesse, it's just we're spoiled right now to have 2 goalies that we feel confident in most nights. Final thing, though, we got to talk about. Now, there's been some recent stuff coming out about the NHL, and this was reported by RG.org. This is what I saw. NHL cancels escrow payments, shares profits with players. Basically, not to get too deep into this, the owners and the players split the revenues 50-50 at the end of the day. So the escrow is kind of a bit of money held from the player salaries that if it doesn't reach 50-50, that money will go to the owners to bring it up to 50-50. But what this signifies, just without going deep into it, that means the NHL has made enough revenue that the owners have made their money back already. The NHL players don't need to worry about anything, which is a big indicator of the NHL's growth. And there's an article in Montreal Hockey Now from Marco D'Amico that we want to get into here. He talks about a lot of the implications this has on Montreal, and we'll be diving into those specifically, but I wanted to highlight this section where he said the entire NHL may benefit from a near $10 million boost in salary cap space as the revenues keep soaring. The expectation among sources is that the NHL and NHLPA will agree to artificially increase the salary cap from $88 million to closer to $97 million instead of the previously projected $93 million discussed in September. This is a massive jump, Jesse, and what this means for Montreal is despite some big names free agents being out there and Montreal having some cap space, they're now not going to be the only team, and that could very well change their strategy heading into the offseason in terms of how they want to bolster their roster.
Yeah, there could be some prime players coming to Montreal as a result. And we're not just talking about Ivan Demidov. Obviously amazing that the NHL is doing good. We can't take that for granted. Not every professional league is trending in that same direction. So obviously amazing news, and the players are going to get rewarded as a result. Now with this cap space, the real question is where is Montreal going to kind of pivot to kind of really solidify their team and look to kind of build for the future. And in this article, I think it was very astutely mentioned, as I've kind of mentioned before, looking for a right-hand D, a number one, a top four, they kind of mentioned. I think you have to look for that number one. And Carrier is that number two, but you want to kind of keep him in this spot for this team to really have success. We know who's playing that number one right-hand D right now. It's Matheson, actually playing really well with Hudson, but that's not the forever plan. So I think getting a right-hand D, but again, getting a vet at that position, probably by a trade. I think, having the money, for sure there's going to be free agents, but I think trade is probably the best route to kind of go there. And with Kirby Dach playing well, like for me, with Demidov kind of coming in, I'm okay with our top six. Newhook then goes down to that third line. There is some talk about kind of solidifying our top nine, which I do agree. But I think that top, first pairing right-hand defenseman, until Reinbacher and Mailloux are really able to join those ranks, I think is definitely the way to go with this money.
I think that's smart, right? And again, like a big name right-hand D, there's not like, there's some that might be free agents this year. And so, but the thing is, Jesse, again, the competition, like you mentioned, it's if you're competing with every other team to sign some of the top free agents, these other teams are going to have as much space as you do. And that was an advantage that we said Montreal had. But again, a good point in the article, and something that you very astutely brought up as well, is the fact that Montreal is in one of the best positions in the entire NHL to make a big trade for the need, right? And here's the thing, too. Montreal's offseason plan, you can think it is whatever now, but if they feel like they no longer hold as much of a strategic financial advantage in terms of free agency, they are in probably the best position to trade for something, because look at all these picks in 2025. They're not going to be drafting in all those picks. You can guarantee that, right? And a draft pick to another team, say a second round draft pick's worth a lot more to another team if they get to draft the player that they want, as opposed to Montreal making all these picks for all these prospects and then trying to trade them out piece by piece later. Teams, they care a lot more about getting a player that they want in the draft. So Jesse, with all this said, we're talking about adding someone to their top six, if not top nine. We got to fill some holes that are going to be left by Dvorak and Armia. Evans maybe, right? Beck might be able to fill one. Kapanen might be able to fill one. We're still not guaranteed that. If we're looking to bolster our forwards and get that kind of top tier level right-hand D, to me, a trade is probably the biggest option. And I know we got guys like RFAs like Noah Dobson, who's now out with injury, who you can maybe go after. Offer sheets are a bit iffy. Montreal has an iffy history there. But what I'm saying is we have the draft picks to make something huge happen. We have the young players to make something huge happen. And even if now we don't hold the big advantage like we might have before in terms of free agency, they're still in such a prime position that it's really, really, really good.
And that advantage carries on with all the picks that we have. So again, that's what kind of the writing on the wall kind of necessitates a trade for that reason as well. Again, $13 million coming off the book.
Mm-hmm.
You got to feel like Kent Hughes is going to want to reward the boys for playing a really good year. So obviously the guys are putting themselves in such a great position, for the management to really go out and do something amazing for this team this summer, showing that they're ready to take that next step.
And you know what? I this wasn't really part of the video, but if the cap actually jumps that much, how good are the contracts that we have? How good is a $5.5 million contract for Guhle going to look? How good is it going to look to have Slav, Caufield, and Suzuki all under $8 million? It's crazy. There's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of implications here. Let us know your thoughts down below on what you think Montreal might do, because all signs seem to be pointing to Montreal making a big splash in terms of a trade sooner than you may think. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much. We're almost at 18,000. So if you made it to this point, all we need is about 100 and something subscribers to get to 18,000. And if you're watching right now, you haven't hit that button, we would really, really appreciate it, because we have content like this every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.